Have you ever wondered why we clap when we like something? A singer finishes a performance. Everyone starts hitting their hands together. A speaker says something inspiring. We clap. Someone wins an award. We clap again. But why? Why did humans decide that repeatedly hitting two parts of our body together means, I like what you just did? And here's the strange part. Clapping is almost universal today, but nobody knows exactly who started it. There was no ancient person who stood up and announced, from now on, when you enjoy something, everyone must do this. So where did it come from? The oldest evidence takes us surprisingly far back. Ancient Greek and Roman writers describe audiences expressing approval with sounds, shouting, and applause. In the Roman world, applause could become a major part of public performances, with different forms of audience response becoming almost organized rituals. But clapping wasn't only about entertainment. For ancient audiences, making noise was a way of being heard. Imagine standing in a huge crowd thousands of years ago. You can't pull out a phone and leave a review. You can't vote with a button. You can't tell the performer afterward what you thought, but you can make noise. And thousands of people making noise together is impossible to ignore. That's where applause becomes more than just a sound. It becomes communication. But here's where the story gets more interesting. The Romans eventually took audience applause so seriously that it could become almost political. Public figures could use the reaction of a crowd to demonstrate popularity and support. And in Roman theaters, audiences didn't simply clap whenever they wanted. Crowd reactions could include shouting, cheering, and different forms of applause. The audience wasn't just watching the performance, the audience was part of the event. And that idea survived. Centuries later, applause became deeply connected to European theater and public performance. By the 17th and 18th centuries, audience behavior in European theaters could be surprisingly loud and interactive. People talked, shouted, cheered, and applauded during performances. Going to the theater wasn't always the quiet experience we imagine today. Eventually, however, social expectations around audiences changed. People were increasingly expected to sit quietly during a performance and save their applause for particular moments. And that created the version of applause we recognize today. But there is still one huge question. Why use the hands? Why not stomp your feet? Why not whistle? Why not shout? Well, humans actually use all of those. Applause simply has some advantages. It's loud, it's visible, and most importantly, everyone can do it. You don't need a musical instrument. You don't need special training. You just need two hands. And when hundreds or thousands of people clap together, something interesting happens. Individual sounds become one giant sound. That's why applause can feel almost physical. You're not just hearing approval, you're surrounded by it. And researchers have even found that applause doesn't behave exactly like ordinary conversation. In a 2013 study published in the journal Nature, researchers led by Richard Mann analyzed recordings of people applauding and found that applause could spread rapidly through a crowd and that people tended to synchronize their clapping. In other words, once a few people start, the sound can quickly take over the room. That helps explain something you've probably experienced yourself. Sometimes you don't even decide to clap. Everyone around you starts and your hands just join in. So maybe applause isn't simply a human way of saying, I like that. It's also a way for a crowd to become one. One person claps, another joins, then another, and suddenly hundreds of people are communicating the same message without saying a single word. We don't know exactly when the first human ever clapped to show approval. That moment is lost somewhere in prehistory. But we do know that organized applause has been part of human public life for thousands of years, and ancient civilizations left written and artistic evidence of audiences expressing approval. So the next time you clap after a performance, remember what you're actually doing. You're taking a very simple human movement and turning it into a message everyone can understand. No words, no translation, just two hands coming together. And somehow, after thousands of years, we all know what it means.